Thank you. My name is Rick McCabe. I'm the police chief. I was promoted in August of 2018. So it's hard to believe that I'm going on my 4th year as the chief. I started here, actually tomorrow is my 24th anniversary with this police department, so. And then 2 years prior to that, I graduated from the State Police Academy 2 years prior to that and worked downstate for a little bit and then came up here. We look a lot different now than we did when I first started here. When I started, we were in a triple wide trailer on the corner of 273 and 141. I don't know how many people remember that, but and I was lucky because the folks before me worked in the sheriff's house, and as historic and as wonderful as that is, it was not in the best condition. So we were upgraded to the triple wide trailer when I started. There were maybe 10, 11 of us back then. Many of us were kind of nicknamed retreads. We had come from other agencies. I think the first person that had been trained and hired by here and stayed here was the chief that I followed, Jamie Rogers. Since then, there had been no other recruits. Since he became chief in 2016, and between now and then, in the last 6 years or so, almost everybody we have now has been hired as a recruit, trained, and has started here. And this stays in this room, we've lost none of them. They're all still here, so, which is remarkable in this climate because other agencies are throwing cash in the air to try to get certified officers. So that says a lot about you. It says a lot about this city. They enjoy working here. We're 18 strong right now. I'm the chief. I have 2 administrative captains. Two captains. One is an administrative captain. Many of you know her. She's responsible for a lot of the community events. She is responsible for a lot of the stuff that's on the table there. There's some promotional items and stuff like that we're going to get into in a second. She handles anything that you can imagine administrative, and on top of it is also she heads the criminal investigative unit. And she still catches cases despite the fact that I'm asking her not to. She still catches these cases and she's still running them. The other captain is our operations captain. He runs patrol, he runs training. He's also our internal affairs investigator. So these folks carry a lot. The bigger agencies, what I just described, I think I described the work of maybe 10 or 11 staff officers. He's also responsible for the patrol division. And in the patrol division, we have 4 squads of 3 people. Each squad has a shift supervisor. So that's how we make the 18th. We are at 18, but I have 1 in the academy and 1 deployed. So I have yet to see 18, but we're close. And when I do, we're gonna create this community engagement specialist that I've been talking about for years. So that role is gonna be a wide role where the first order of business in the fall is to get him into these schools. COVID has really pushed us. I mean, it's pushed a lot of people back, but it's events like this that we've been anxious to be part of for a long time. So this is fantastic, and I can't thank you enough for an opportunity to kind of let people know what we look like. Knowledge is power, and I don't think you'd have to have your head in the sand not to recognize that we're taking some heat over the last few years. A lot of it is not accurate information. So our goal is to become more and more public, more and more transparent, to let people see what we look like and how we operate. How we operate is a key element to that. There are folks that do not realize how we manage ourselves and how we police ourselves. And we explain all of this on our website. So there's 2 areas that if we walk away from anything today, one of the things that we've really changed the last few years is how to get access to us. I was promoted on August 1st, August 15th, our Facebook page went live. And I know it was very hard for my predecessors to buy in on a lot of the social media thing. And anybody who's been on social media realizes that there's enough negative to scare you away. But it is a platform to provide public with real-time information and to give you a look at us from the outside in. There's also a link to our website. We created a website that took a lot of time, and we got grant money for it. It was an expensive project, but we're very happy with it. It's due for an update because we just promoted some folks and we moved some people around, but That website gives us links to anything. You can link to the city, you can link to the trust, you can link to the fire department. You can link to almost anything. So it is really important, if you want to know what we look like, to get onto those two platforms. And then once you're on there, you'll see some of the things we're talking about. If you're following any of the national or even state news about some of the legislation that's pending, you'll hear the term transparency, you'll hear the term public-facing information. If you go to our website, you're gonna see a link that says transparency, and everything that they're talking about is right there. So many of us in this profession have already started doing it. So, and I shouldn't be taking credit for any of it, because the one good thing about Delaware law enforcement is we all talk to each other, we all know each other, and I've been stealing all their iteas for the last 2 years. So, but it really is. This has been an honor to hold this position, and it really, I have some of the greatest, I say this all the time in council meetings, I have some of the greatest young men and women in law enforcement, and I really, I hope to hold on to them, because they are very talented, and they're very dedicated to what they do. We have published a lot of the information about many of our activities and what we're doing locally and some outside of the city. But I did bring this too. I wanted to show this. And a lot of these events we've had to put on hold, but we're starting to get them back again. This is an annual report that I published last year. I'm working on this year's. It's a little late, but we're getting there. Again, this will be, we'll create a link on our Facebook page to this, and then this will be on our website. And I'll give it to council hopefully at the next council meetings. But one of the things we summarized in last year's annual report was all the community events that we've initiated, taken part in, and unfortunately had, kind of put on hold because of all the, because of the COVID and stuff like that. We had a program to carry down and that we had to stop, where we were giving kids citizenship awards every month. That was a fantastic program that was encouraging kids to do the right thing, and then they were publicly acknowledged for that. And we found later that these kids were really upset when this stopped because of COVID, because they were all kind of striving for that. So imagine a school creating a program that's rewarding kids, encouraging kids to do the right thing, to be good citizens. That's how things kind of spread. We would have, and I think Captain Shukar started this. We've restarted it again last year with the annual Christmas party, where, and with the help of the trust and donations from the public, we put on a great show for families that really can't afford to give their kids Christmas. So we adopt 2 or 3 families that we're told from the community need help, and we have the best Santa Claus known to mankind with the fire department, and a really cool elf, that we all know. And they bring these families in, they take them from they have their own space, and the looks on these kids' faces is priceless. So, and that's the stuff that comes from the community, that comes from the relationships we've developed, and they walk away knowing that somebody from a police department and the fire department had something to do with that. So this is online. I hope you take a chance to look at it, look at some of the community events we're sponsoring. We have National Night Out coming back soon. I think we have a meeting next Tuesday to talk about that. These are important events that kind of bring us all together and remind us that, believe it or not, if people from outside looked in some of these smaller communities, they might learn something from us, because I've been very fortunate to work with some elected officials and city officials that have been forward-thinking, supportive. There is a national narrative that is very alarming, and it's alarming to us, but it's not a local narrative, and that means a lot, and it starts really with the community. So again, the big takeaway, I have some promotional items over here. The other initiative, and I'll be real quick with this, that we've started is we've addressed mental health and substance abuse at a compassionate care response kind of scenario, right? We've talked about this so many times at council meetings. We've changed the way we respond to these calls for service, and we've trained ourselves to be aware of when we see it, and then we've given ourselves opportunities to provide outlets for families. And I know I've said this 1,000 times, that was not anything I had access to as a patrol officer. We would respond to these issues, whether it be mental health crisis or substance abuse crisis, and we had no options. other than to make an arrest, which was completely ineffective, and it led to forced complaints or forced issues that probably didn't need to exist. We got hurt, they got hurt. So that still happens. It's still there. But we now have access to families. And then the worst part was we'd walk out, we'd look at mom, we'd look at dad, we'd look at the brothers with no answers. What do we do with this? I deal with this every day. How do we get better? We had no answers. Now we have solutions. Now we have answers. It's not perfect, but it's better than what I had. And it's definitely a sign of progress. The last thing I wanted to show you was, I talked about this a couple of council meetings ago. I wanted people to see this. We joined the Leave Back program. So we were the first agency in the state to have a police officer train the public on how to use Narcan. There were plenty of agencies that hosted the program, but we had the actual training. We now join Take Back. So when we respond to an overdose, we now follow up the next day to see how they're doing. We offer hero help. We offer anything we can offer. And then we leave the family with a Narcan kit and all the literature you would think you would need to help people that are fighting this disease. So we're trying to get better at this. I don't know, and I've said this 1,000 times, I don't know why right now our numbers have dropped significantly. We know they're happening. We know there's overdoses, but we think maybe we're administering the Narcan and maybe not telling us. We'd like to know so we could track the data, but we would only know if there was a death. We've had one in the last 18 months, and that's remarkable compared to what this looked like 4 or 5 years ago. So again, that's kudos to the community. So that's all I have. I appreciate your time. I think I went over 5 minutes. I'm sorry. So, and if you have any questions.
Can I get a copy of the annual report to have for the community who don't have access to online?
Absolutely. You want last year's or this year's?
Both.
Okay. Mr. Gross.
Yeah, I'd like to personally thank you for your personal interest in the community, because generally a lot of precincts or areas tend to be larger and they have more people, but you take the time to take a personal interest. But I do have a question. If a resident makes a police complaint, and are they entitled to a police report?
That's a great question. Those are the workings that I think we need to start getting out, pushing out to folks so they understand how it works. So a police report can be released to victims of a crime. They have to be listed as a victim. That means we have to have established that a crime was committed and that the person that reported it is a victim. We don't release anything else. We don't release those reports to anybody else, to witnesses, the suspects. Suspects have access to it through a process in the legal system known as discovery, right? Their attorney reaches out to us, and that's filtered through the Attorney General's office, because not all that information, we're not just gonna hand you an entire report with everybody's names on and stuff like that. So does that make sense? So now, are there folks that wonder whether or not they were a victim or not? And if that's the question, then that's the discussion you have with the investigating officer. If you're not happy with that, you know how it works. You just work your way up to the top. Not everybody gets the answers they like. So, but we only release the victims. That's outlined in the title. The Victim's Bill of Rights is very specific. So, does that help?
Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.